Welcome to Sleep Lab. Rain had been falling over the town for so long that people had stopped talking about it. Not because it was heavy, not because it was dangerous, but because it never seemed to end. Every morning the streets were wet. Every evening the rooftops glistened beneath grey clouds. Every night the sound of raindrops tapped softly against windows like fingers playing a gentle song. The town itself was small. A quiet American town hidden between rolling hills and dense forests. Most travelers passed through without remembering its name. Children rode bicycles along empty streets. Shopkeepers greeted familiar faces. Old men sat beneath awnings watching the rain. Nothing remarkable ever seemed to happen there. At least, that was what people believed. Because nobody knew what existed beneath the town. Nobody knew about the library. At the far end of a narrow street stood an old brick building. Its walls were covered in ivy. Its windows were dusty. An ancient clock hung above the entrance. The strange thing about the clock was that it never showed the correct time. Sometimes it was 5 minutes slow. Sometimes 20. Nobody knew why. Most people ignored it. Children occasionally pointed at it. Adults rarely looked up. The building had no sign. No advertisements. No visitors. Yet somehow it never appeared abandoned. Every morning the steps were clean. Every evening the lights glowed faintly behind the windows, as though someone was quietly taking care of it. The truth was much stranger. Far below the building stretched a world hidden from ordinary people. A world of endless corridors, floating lanterns, ancient staircases, and books. Millions upon millions of books. This was the library of lost dreams. Every forgotten dream eventually arrived there. A dream about flying over oceans. A dream about finding hidden treasure. A dream about talking with the moon. The moment someone woke up and forgot the dream drifted through the sleeping world and found its way into the library. There it remained forever, protected, preserved, remembered, and for many years, one person had cared for them. Arthur Bell. Arthur was the librarian. He was an elderly man with silver hair, round glasses, and a long grey coat that smelled faintly of old paper and rain. Every night he walked the endless shelves carrying a lantern and a small notebook. Whenever a new dream arrived, he recorded it carefully. He loved the dreams. Every single one. Some were funny, some were beautiful, some were sad, but each one revealed something important about the person who dreamed it. Arthur believed dreams were small pieces of the soul. That was why he protected them. Tonight seemed like every other night. The rain echoed softly through the stone ceilings. Golden lanterns floated through the corridors. Books rested peacefully on endless shelves. Arthur wandered through the section known as Forgotten Childhood Dreams. One book contained a dream about building castles from cardboard boxes. Another contained a dream about a dragon who baked cookies. A third contained a dream about sailing across a sea made entirely of stars. Arthur smiled. Children always had the best dreams. He carefully wrote notes in his notebook, then continued walking. Everything felt calm, peaceful, perfect, until he felt the cold breeze. Arthur stopped immediately. His smile vanished. A breeze should not exist underground, especially not inside the deepest parts of the library. Yet there it was, soft, cold, carrying the scent of fresh rain. Arthur slowly looked around. The lantern light flickered. The endless shelves stood silent. Nothing moved. Nothing seemed unusual. Then the breeze came again. Stronger this time. The scent of rain became unmistakable. Arthur frowned. Something wasn't right. For decades he had worked inside the library. He knew every corridor, every staircase, every hidden room. The library had many mysteries, but unexpected breezes were not one of them. A sudden noise echoed somewhere in the darkness. A book fell. The sound traveled through the shelves. Arthur froze. Then silence returned. For several seconds nothing happened. Then came another sound. A footstep. Very distant, very soft, but undeniably real. Arthur's heartbeat quickened. Visitors were impossible. Nobody entered the library of lost dreams. Not dreamers. Not strangers. Not anyone. The library accepted dreams, not people. Yet the footsteps continued. Tap, 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 slowly approaching. Arthur raised his lantern. Golden light spilled across the corridor. Rows of books disappeared into darkness. The footsteps stopped. The silence became almost unbearable. Then Arthur saw it, a faint golden glow moving between distant shelves. Not a lantern, not a dream light. Something else, something alive. The glow moved closer, 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 and finally stepped into view. Arthur blinked. A young girl stood before him. She looked about 13 years old. Dark hair, curious eyes, a bright yellow raincoat covered in tiny droplets of water. Actual rainwater. Arthur stared in disbelief. The girl looked equally confused. For several seconds neither spoke. Then the girl glanced around at the endless library. The floating lanterns. The towering shelves. The countless books. And quietly asked, "Excuse me?" Arthur waited. The girl tilted her head. "Do you know where I am?" Arthur could only stare, because in all his years inside the Library of Lost Dreams, he had never seen a human being standing between the shelves. And somewhere far below the library, hidden beneath stone and time itself, an ancient bell began to ring. Dong! The sound rolled through the endless corridors. Books trembled. Lanterns flickered. Dust drifted from unseen ceilings. Arthur felt a chill run through his body, because he recognized that bell, or at least the stories about it, the bell of awakening, a bell that rang only when something ancient stirred beneath the library. The girl looked toward the darkness. Arthur did the same. Then a nearby book suddenly fell from a shelf. It landed open at their feet. Its pages turned by themselves. Silver words slowly appeared across the paper. Arthur's hands trembled as he read them. "The dreamer has entered." A second sentence appeared beneath the first. "The storm has begun." Far above, thunder rumbled across the rainy sky. And deep within the hidden heart of the Library of Lost Dreams, something ancient opened its eyes. End of Part 1. Cloud with Rain book sparkles. The bell continued to ring. Dong. The sound rolled through the endless library like distant thunder. Books trembled on their shelves. Floating lanterns swayed gently in the air. Somewhere far above, rain tapped softly against the rooftops of the sleeping town. Arthur Bell stared at the open book lying on the floor. The silver words still glowed upon its pages. The dreamer has entered. The storm has begun. For many years Arthur had heard stories about those words. Stories passed from one librarian to another. Stories nobody truly believed. Until now, slowly, Arthur lifted his gaze toward the girl standing before him. She shifted nervously beneath his stare. The yellow raincoat looked strangely bright among the warm golden lanterns. Tiny drops of water still clung to the fabric. Actual rainwater. That alone should have been impossible. Nothing from the waking world ever entered the library of lost dreams. Nothing except dreams. Yet somehow this girl had arrived carrying rain with her. Arthur adjusted his glasses. "What is your name?" The girl hesitated, then smiled politely. "Emma." Arthur nodded. "My name is Arthur." Emma looked around again. The wonder in her eyes grew larger with every passing second. Towering shelves stretched into darkness. Thousands of books glowed softly from within. Golden lanterns floated through the air like gentle stars. Spiral staircases climbed toward unseen ceilings. The entire place felt impossible, like something from a dream. Perhaps because it was. "Is this a library?" Emma asked quietly. Arthur almost laughed. Of all the questions she could have asked, that one felt strangely comforting. "Yes." Emma smiled. "It's beautiful." Arthur glanced around. For a moment he saw the library through her eyes, and realized she was right. After decades underground, he had forgotten how magical it looked. Before either of them could speak again, the bell rang once more. Dong. This time the sound felt different. Stronger. Closer. Arthur's expression immediately darkened. Emma noticed. "What's wrong?" Arthur didn't answer right away. because he wasn't sure how much she needed to know, or how much he understood himself. The truth was simple. That bell had not rung for centuries, and according to the oldest records in the library, its return meant something ancient had awakened. A cold breeze drifted through the corridor. The lanterns flickered. Then something unexpected happened. Every lantern suddenly turned toward the same direction, as though pulled by an invisible force. Emma watched in amazement. Did they just move? Arthur nodded slowly. The lanterns never moved without reason. Never. One by one they drifted deeper into the darkness. Waiting, guiding, calling. Arthur felt a knot forming in his stomach, because he knew where they were leading. A place hidden beneath the library. A place few had seen. A place spoken of only in whispers. Emma followed the lanterns with her eyes. Should we go after them? Arthur hesitated. Every instinct told him no, but the glowing words in the book echoed through his thoughts. The dreamer has entered. If Emma truly was the dreamer from the prophecy, then whatever was happening involved her. Perhaps it had always involved her. Arthur sighed, then picked up his lantern. Stay close. Emma nodded immediately. Together they followed the floating lights. The journey carried them through forgotten sections of the library, past endless shelves, past hidden staircases, past books so old that their titles had faded long ago. The deeper they traveled, the quieter the library became. Eventually even the sound of rain disappeared. Only silence remained, and the soft glow of lantern light. Minutes passed, perhaps longer. Time behaved strangely within the library. Finally they reached a stone door. Arthur stopped. Emma stared. The doorway was enormous. Ancient symbols covered its surface. Silver roots had grown across the stone. Tiny glowing leaves emerged from the cracks. The sight felt alive, as though the door itself was sleeping. Emma whispered, "What is this place?" Arthur swallowed. The oldest part of the library. His voice sounded smaller than usual. Even he rarely visited this area. The lanterns gathered before the door, then suddenly brightened. The silver roots began glowing. The ancient symbols awakened. A deep rumble echoed through the stone. Emma stepped backward. The door slowly opened. A wave of silver light flooded outward. Warm, gentle, beautiful. Arthur shielded his eyes. Emma stared through the opening and gasped. Beyond the doorway stood a chamber larger than anything she had ever imagined. Silver rivers flowed across the floor. Countless glowing leaves drifted through the air. And at the center stood something magnificent. A tree. A giant silver tree. Its roots stretched across the chamber like rivers of moonlight. Its branches reached toward an unseen ceiling. Millions of glowing fruits hung among the leaves. Each one contained a dream. A living dream. The sight stole Emma's breath. The tree seemed older than time itself. Older than the library. Older than memory. Arthur removed his glasses slowly. Even after all these years, the sight still amazed him. The dream tree, he whispered. Emma couldn't look away. Every branch glowed with silver light. Every leaf shimmered softly. The entire chamber felt alive. Peaceful. Sacred. Then Emma noticed something strange. One branch was different. While the rest of the tree glowed silver, a single branch near the center was covered in darkness. Black cracks spread through the bark. Shadow clung to the leaves. The darkness seemed to move. To breathe. Emma pointed. What happened to that branch? Arthur's face immediately turned pale. Before he could answer, another voice echoed through the chamber. A calm, ancient, powerful voice. That branch carries a forgotten story. Emma spun around. A figure stood beneath the dream tree. Tall silver robes flowed around them. Their face seemed timeless, neither old nor young. Their eyes reflected thousands of years of memories. Arthur immediately lowered his head. The keeper, the ancient figure, looked first at Arthur, then at Emma. A strange expression appeared on their face. Not surprise, recognition, as though they had been waiting for a very long time. The keeper stepped closer. Silver leaves drifted around them. The dreamer has returned. Emma frowned. Returned. The keeper nodded slowly, then turned toward the dark branch. For a brief moment, sadness crossed their face. The story is beginning again. The black branch trembled. A crack spread through the darkness. A cold wind rushed across the chamber. The dream tree shivered, and from somewhere deep within the shadows, something opened its eyes. The chamber became completely silent. Silver leaves drifted slowly through the air. Soft rivers of glowing light moved around the roots of the dream tree. And beneath the enormous silver branches stood Emma, Arthur, and the keeper. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke, because something had changed. The dark branch had moved. Only slightly, but enough. Enough to make Arthur feel cold, enough to make the keeper's expression become serious. Emma stared upward. Unlike the silver branches surrounding it, the dark branch looked wrong. Not broken, not dead, wrong. Black veins crawled through its bark like spreading ink. The leaves hanging from it no longer glowed silver. They looked like tiny pieces of night sky. And for some reason Emma couldn't stop staring at it the longer she looked. The more familiar it felt. A strange feeling settled inside her chest. Like remembering a song she hadn't heard in years. Arthur quietly stepped beside the keeper. "What is happening?" he whispered. The keeper didn't answer immediately. Their eyes remained fixed on the dark branch. For the first time since Emma met them, they looked worried. Very worried. Finally they spoke. For centuries this branch remained asleep. Arthur frowned. Asleep. The keeper nodded slowly. It carries the memory of a dream the world chose to forget. Emma looked at them. What kind of dream? A soft breeze moved through the chamber. The silver leaves above rustled quietly. Then the keeper looked upward and whispered, "The forgotten dream." The moment those words left their mouth, the chamber shook. Not violently, just enough for the silver rivers to ripple. Arthur immediately stepped backward. Emma felt cold air brush against her face. The dark branch trembled. Tiny cracks appeared across its bark. Black light leaked through them. Arthur's voice became nervous. "Keeper." The keeper stared upward, then slowly said, "It remembers." Silence. Emma looked confused. What remembers? Nobody answered. Then suddenly, a voice echoed through the chamber. Soft. Very soft. So soft Emma almost thought she imagined it. Rain. Arthur froze. The keeper's eyes widened. Emma's heart skipped. The voice had come from the dark branch. The voice spoke again. Slow, ancient, almost sleepy. I remember rain. The silver leaves stopped moving. The rivers of light became still. The entire chamber seemed to be listening. Emma stared upward. Her heart began beating faster. Because something about the voice felt familiar. Not the words. The feeling. She had heard that feeling before. Somewhere. Long ago. The voice continued. I remember stories. The darkness around the branch slowly shifted. Emma suddenly noticed something. Two faint lights had appeared inside the shadows. Eyes. Ancient eyes. Watching her. Arthur grabbed his lantern tightly. Keeper. This shouldn't happen. The keeper remained silent. Emma couldn't look away. The eyes didn't seem angry. Didn't seem dangerous. If anything, they seemed sad. Very sad. Then the voice whispered one final sentence. A sentence that made Emma stop breathing. I remember you. Everything became still. Arthur slowly turned toward Emma. The keeper stared at her. Emma felt her chest tighten. Because suddenly, a memory flashed through her mind. Rain falling outside a window. A silver tree glowing in darkness. A shadow sitting beneath it waiting. Waiting for someone. Waiting for her. Emma whispered, "No." The memory disappeared immediately. But her hands were shaking. Because deep inside her heart, she knew something impossible. She had heard this voice before. Years ago. In a dream she had forgotten. And somewhere deep inside the darkness, the ancient eyes slowly closed. Almost like they were smiling. Emma could not move. The voice still echoed inside her mind. I remember you. The words felt impossible. Yet deep inside her heart something had changed. A feeling. A memory trying to wake up around her. Silver leaves drifted slowly through the chamber. The dream tree shimmered softly. The dark branch had become quiet again. The ancient eyes hidden inside the shadows had disappeared, but Emma could still feel them. Watching, waiting. Arthur adjusted his glasses nervously. His hands were shaking slightly. For many years he had worked in the Library of Lost Dreams. He had read countless stories, countless legends, but nothing like this had ever happened. He looked toward the keeper. How does it know her? The keeper remained silent. Emma stared at the silver rivers flowing around the roots of the tree. For some reason, looking at the water made her chest hurt. Tiny lights moved beneath its surface. Dream fragments, memories, forgotten moments. Then suddenly, a silver leaf detached from the tree. It floated slowly downward, spinning gently through the air. Emma watched it. The leaf drifted closer, closer, then landed softly in her hand. The moment her fingers touched it, everything disappeared. Rain, heavy rain. Emma blinked. She wasn't inside the chamber anymore. She wasn't standing beside Arthur. She wasn't beneath the dream tree. Instead, she stood inside a forest. A strange forest filled with silver light. Rain fell softly between enormous glowing trees. Tiny floating lights drifted through the air like fireflies. Everything felt warm, safe, familiar. Emma looked around slowly. She suddenly realized something. She knew this place, not because she had visited it, because she had dreamed it. Years ago, when she was very little, a path stretched through the forest. Emma followed it. Her feet moved without thinking. Step by step, the rain continued falling. The silver lights floated around her. Then she reached a clearing. And there, at the center, stood a giant silver tree. The same tree, the dream tree, but smaller, younger, brighter. Emma stared in shock. Beneath the tree sat someone. A figure made of soft shadows and tiny stars. Its face was difficult to see. Its shape moved gently like smoke beneath moonlight. Yet Emma felt no fear. None at all, because somehow She already knew it. The figure looked up, then smiled. Not a frightening smile. A lonely smile. A smile that looked happy simply because someone had arrived. Young Emma slowly walked closer. "Hello." The figure looked surprised. For a moment it said nothing. Then softly answered, "Hello." Rain tapped quietly against silver leaves overhead. Young Emma sat beside the figure. Neither spoke for a while. They simply watched the rain together. Then Emma asked, "Why are you alone?" The shadow looked upward toward the glowing branches. For a long time it remained silent. Finally it answered, "Because everyone forgets dreams eventually." Young Emma frowned. "That's sad." The figure nodded slowly. Very slowly. Then Emma smiled. A small child's smile. Simple. Warm. Bright. "Then I'll remember you." Silence. The figure looked at her. As if nobody had ever said that before. Hours seemed to pass. Or maybe only minutes. They shared stories. Talked about clouds. Talked about stars. Talked about dreams. Eventually the rain began fading. The forest slowly became brighter. The figure looked toward Emma sadly. "You're waking up." Young Emma looked confused. "No." The figure smiled softly. "Yes." Everything around them slowly began disappearing. The trees, the lights, the rain. Emma suddenly felt scared. Because she didn't want to leave. She looked at the lonely figure. Then quickly said, "I'll come back." The figure stared at her. Young Emma smiled. "I promise." Emma suddenly opened her eyes. The chamber returned. The dream tree. The silver rivers. Arthur. The keeper. Everything returned. Tears filled Emma's eyes. Because she remembered now, she remembered everything. Slowly she looked toward the dark branch. Her voice trembled. Very quietly she whispered, "I promised." The shadows moved. The ancient eyes appeared once more. And for the first time, the forgotten library. Emma stared at the dark branch. The ancient eyes hidden inside the shadows looked back at her. But now everything felt different. The fear had disappeared. Because she remembered. She remembered the silver forest. She remembered the rain. She remembered the lonely figure waiting beneath the tree. Most importantly, she remembered her promise. I'll come back. For a long moment nobody spoke. Silver leaves drifted through the chamber. The rivers of light moved softly around the roots of the dream tree. Arthur looked from Emma to the keeper, then back to the dark branch. His mind felt completely lost. For years he had believed the old stories. Everyone inside the library had believed them. The forgotten dream was dangerous. The forgotten dream was cursed. The forgotten dream brought darkness. But now, nothing made sense anymore. Emma slowly looked toward the keeper. You knew. The keeper remained silent. You knew it wasn't evil. The keeper closed their eyes. For several seconds only the sound of distant rain filled the chamber. Finally they spoke. The stories were incomplete. Emma frowned. What does that mean? The keeper walked slowly toward the roots of the dream tree. Silver light moved beneath their feet. Ancient memories seemed to shimmer within the rivers surrounding them. The world remembers monsters more easily than sadness. Arthur looked confused. The keeper continued quietly. Long ago there was no library. Emma blinked. No library. The keeper nodded. No dream tree. No keepers. No guardians. There was only dreams. The chamber darkened slightly. The silver river beside the roots suddenly began glowing brighter. Images appeared within the water. A vision. Emma stared. Arthur stared. The forgotten dream watched silently. The vision showed endless stars. Thousands and thousands of dreams floated through space like tiny lights. Some glowed blue, some silver, some gold. Beautiful, peaceful. Among them drifted one extraordinary dream. A dream brighter than all the others. Golden. Warm. Curious. The keeper spoke softly. It was the first dream. Emma watched the glowing dream moving among stars. It wandered endlessly. It listened to stories. It collected forgotten hopes. It protected dreams that would otherwise disappear forever. The vision changed. Emma saw forgotten dreams drifting alone through darkness. Then the golden dream gathered them. protected them, saved them. For centuries it continued helping others. Always alone. Always carrying forgotten stories. Always listening. Always protecting. Arthur felt his chest tighten. Because suddenly he understood something. It wasn't a monster. The keeper looked at him. No. Emma stared silently at the vision. Then the keeper whispered, "It built the first dream tree." The chamber became completely silent. Emma slowly looked upward. At the giant silver tree standing above them. Her eyes widened. Arthur almost dropped his glasses. "What?" The keeper nodded. "The forgotten dream created everything. The library exists because of it." Emma looked toward the dark branch. Toward the lonely eyes hidden within shadows. For centuries the world had feared it. Forgotten it, blamed it, but all along it had been protecting everyone. Then suddenly, crack, the sound exploded through the chamber. Everyone looked upward. A large fracture spread across the dream tree. Silver light burst through the bark. The entire chamber trembled violently. Books fell from distant shelves. Lanterns shook wildly. The silver rivers rippled. Arthur stumbled backward. "What's happening?" The keeper's face became pale. Very pale. Because black shadows were now spreading through multiple branches. Not one. Many. The forgotten dream suddenly stepped away from the darkness. Its voice sounded frightened. For the first time. Actually frightened. No. Emma looked toward it. The shadowed figure stared beneath the roots of the tree. Not upward. Downward. Deep below the library. Something moved. A low rumble echoed beneath the chamber. The floor shook. Then shook again. Silver leaves began falling everywhere. The keeper whispered something quietly. Something that made Arthur's face lose all color. The void. Emma looked confused. The what? No one answered immediately. Because beneath the roots of the dream tree, deep inside the darkness, something ancient had just awakened. And this time, it was not a dream. The chamber shook violently. Silver leaves rained from the dream tree like falling stars. The glowing rivers around the roots began turning dark. The peaceful light inside the library flickered, then flickered again, and again. Arthur grabbed a nearby shelf to keep himself standing. Books fell everywhere. The floating lanterns spun wildly through the air. Emma looked around in fear. The library had never felt like this before. It felt alive and terrified, deep beneath the roots. Something moved, not footsteps, not a voice, something larger, much larger. The floor suddenly cracked. A dark line spread across the stone. Then another. Then another. Black shadows escaped through the cracks like smoke. Cold air rushed through the chamber. Emma could barely breathe. The keeper stared downward. Their face had gone pale. The seal is breaking. Arthur looked at them. What seal? The keeper's voice shook slightly. For the first time in centuries, the keeper looked afraid. The forgotten dream was never imprisoned. Emma looked toward them. What? The keeper turned slowly. It was protecting something. Silence. Emma stared. Arthur stared. Even the forgotten dream lowered its head. The keeper looked beneath the roots of the tree. Something created from centuries of forgotten dreams. Something created from abandoned hopes. Something created from loneliness. The void. Suddenly. BOOOOM. The roots exploded apart. Silver light burst through the chamber. Emma shielded her eyes. Arthur stumbled backward. Dark smoke rose into the air. Higher, higher, higher. Then the smoke stopped moving. Slowly it began changing shape. Not a creature, not a monster, just darkness, endless darkness. Inside the darkness, Emma saw things disappearing. Stars, books, dreams, memories. Everything simply vanished. Like they had never existed. The void had awakened. The chamber became silent, completely silent. Even the rain outside had stopped. Emma felt cold, very cold. The darkness moved toward the dream tree. Silver leaves touched it, and disappeared. Gone. Like they had never existed. Arthur whispered, "No." The forgotten dream stepped forward. Its body flickered weakly. Its voice sounded sad. I held it back for as long as I could. Emma looked at the lonely dream. For centuries everyone blamed it. Everyone feared it, yet all this time, it had been protecting them. Protecting everyone. Alone. The void continued moving closer. Darkness spread across the roots, across the branches, across the silver rivers. The library began dying. Emma felt tears fill her eyes. No. She looked at the forgotten dream, then remembered the forest, the rain, the promise. Then suddenly, she understood. The void wasn't evil. The forgotten dream wasn't evil. The problem was forgetting. Everyone forgot. Everyone remembered the fear. Nobody remembered the story. Emma slowly walked forward. Arthur shouted, "Emma!" But she kept walking. The forgotten dream looked at her. The darkness stopped. The entire chamber seemed to wait. Emma looked directly at the void. Then she spoke. Her voice was soft, but somehow it echoed everywhere. "I remember." The darkness moved slightly. Emma continued. "I remember the lonely dream beneath the silver tree. Silver light appeared around her feet. I remember the dream that protected stories. The rivers began glowing again. I remember the dream that planted the first dream tree. Silver leaves began shining. I remember the dream that waited centuries for a promise." The darkness trembled. The void began shaking. Emma's eyes filled with tears. "I remember you." For a moment, nothing happened. Then suddenly, light exploded across the chamber. Millions of silver memories burst into the air. Dreams, stories, forgotten hopes, forgotten wishes. Everything returned. The dream tree bloomed instantly. Thousands of silver leaves appeared. Then millions. The darkness began disappearing. Slowly, gently, like fog beneath sunlight. The void wasn't destroyed. It was healed. Because it was finally remembered. The forgotten dream stared at Emma. Its dark form began changing. The shadows disappeared. Cracks vanished. Darkness became golden light. Warm light. Beautiful light. For the first time Emma saw its true form. Not a monster. Not a shadow. Just a beautiful dream made of stars. The first dream, the last dream, the remembered dream. The dream smiled, a real smile, then softly whispered, "Thank you for coming back." Its body slowly turned into golden stars. Tiny lights floated upward. Higher, higher, toward the ceiling, toward the sky, toward the stars beyond the world. Emma wiped tears from her eyes. "Will I see you again?" The dream looked back one final time, then smiled. Every time someone dreams, the stars disappeared, the rain stopped, morning sunlight touched the town, and deep beneath the earth, the library of lost dreams remained safe. Forever.